right, so lesson 7-4 is use multiplication equations to solve problems. So, with the warm-up with the IXL, and you guys, again, that was on a 4th grade level, that IXL, is multiplication facts and finding the missing factor. Now, on that IXL, what was it that you were doing? Now, most of you were not showing your work. You're just plugging in the answer. What were you doing for that multiplication equation to get the answer? Very good. So, in order to get the answer to solve a multiplication equation, you're going to divide, which is what you did on the warm-up. Okay? So, for example 1a, this is solve a multiplication equation from a diagram. All right, so the example here we have is 2x equals 10. So that's 2 times x equals 10. Now this is what 2x equals 10 looks like with algebra tiles. This is what it looks like with a bar diagram. And this is what it looks like with a number line. Okay? So let's go back up here, and now we want to figure out what x is equal to. So we only want, so we have 2 x's on this side, and we have 10 positive ones over here. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split these up. I'm going to put some x's on the top. I'm going to put the x on top, x on the bottom. Now I want to take these and I want to split these positives to match up to the x's. So we got one over here and one over here. We've got one over here and over here. I've got one down here and one up here. Got one down here, one here, and so forth. Very good. So, this is what we've got. So, when I look at this diagram, how much is one of those x's equal to? 5. Very good. So x is equal to 5. And that's how you show it using the algebra tiles. With the bar diagram over here, the whole thing is 10. Those are all of the positives, right? Those are all those positive ones. And we want to know how many go to each one of these x's. Now, if you look at the boxes, these x's is just split in half. Is everybody with me? So, if I have the whole thing is 10, and I split those in half, how many are on this side? 5. And how many are on this side? 5. So again, x is equal to 5. Is everybody clear? Now, here's what it looks like in the number line. For the number line, you're asking yourselves, how many groups of 10 are there? How many groups of 2 are there in 10? So here, the reason we have groups of 2 is because we have 2 x's, okay? So here, each one of these, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of 2. All we have to do is count by 2's all the way to get to 10. So here, there are 5 groups of 2. So again, x is equal to 5. So example 1b, again, is continuing to solve a multiplication equation, this time using the division property of equality. So the division property of equality says that if you divide on one side, in order to keep the balance, you need to divide on the other side. Very good. So now, what is it that we're going to divide by? What tells you what we're going to divide by? You guys remember that cover-up method I showed you? We're going to cover up what we're solving for. We're solving for x, right? So we're going to cover that up. What do I need to get rid of to get that red dot by itself? The 2. Okay, and again, we want that red dot by itself on the left-hand side. So we want to get rid of the 2. Now, remember when we were solving the addition and subtraction equations, we wanted the number that we wanted to get rid of, we want it to become 0, right? Because x plus or minus 0 is equal to x, right? Well, what times x do I need here to get just x? Let me say that. What times x equals x? 1, right? So rather than making this equal to a 0, we want it to be equal to 1. So how do I make 2 equal to 1? Divide by 2. Very good. So we're going to divide by 2 on this side, and we're going to divide by 2 on this side. So now you can see 2 divided by 2, what does that simplify to? That simplifies to 1. So 1 times x is x, and that's what we got. And that's how we get the x by itself. So we divide by 2 on one side, we have to divide by 2 on the other side. So 10 divided by 2, of course, is 5, just like we did in the previous examples. All right, for the second example, we have 84 equals 7x. So we're going to use our cover-up again. We're going to cover up what we're solving for. So what do I need to get rid of to get the x, or the dot, by itself? We want to get rid of the 7, okay? So we want that 7 to become a 1. So how do I change that 7 to a 1? Divide by 7. And if I divide by 7 on one side, I have to divide by 7 on the other side. Okay? So here, 7 divided by 7, that cancels to 1. So 1 times x is equal to x. And that x is equal to 84 divided by 7, which is 12. Now, when solving an equation using the division property of equality, you do not use that division symbol to show division. You will use the fraction bar, just like we did in the examples. So, for example, if you had 2x equals 10, what you will not do is you will not write divide by 2, divide by 2. Is everybody clear? You will not show your work like this. All right, so remember when we were talking with the with writing subtraction and addition equations, we changed the order. Okay, so I'm going to print this out so you guys have this for your notes, okay? So the first step that you're going to do is you're going to define your unknown. So step 1 is define your unknown. What is it that you do not know? Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is to identify your important information. And then step 3 is to translate the English to math and solve. Okay? I want you to make sure you keep those steps in mind when we're doing our next examples. So here is example 2a. We want to write and solve a multiplication equation. It says at the local library, each volunteer shift is 45 minutes long. Last week, Dimitri volunteered for a total of 270 minutes. Write and solve a multiplication equation to determine the number of shifts that Dimitri worked. So, step 1 is to define our variable. What is it that we do not know? So, we want to determine the number of shifts Dimitri worked, right? Now, what do you want to use for your variable?
S.
Okay, now, I heard just somebody say S. Now, look at that S. So, this is the reason why it does sometimes, you guys, when you're writing too fast, sometimes your 5s look like S's, okay? So this is the reason why I will use a cursive S, okay? Or we can just use a different variable, okay? So how about X? All right, we can use X. The previous class used, I think they used W for minutes worked. Okay. All right, so you can use whatever you want. And since you want to use X, we'll use X. So X is equal to the number of minutes worked. Okay. What else is important here? Okay. Yes, that's wrong. Not number of minutes worked, the number of shifts worked. Thank you. Number of shifts worked. Okay. So also important here is that he worked a total of 270 minutes. And then what else is important there?
That each shift is 45 minutes.
Right. So each shift is 45 minutes long. Okay? Now, we need to so that was step 2. Now we want to translate English to math. So, what is the English? So, we could take the number of minutes times the number of shifts, and that's going to give us our total minutes, right? So now we can put our numbers in. So the number of minutes for each shift is 45. The number of shifts is what we're looking for. That's times X. And that's going to be equal to the total number of minutes, which is 270. Is everybody clear? So now, how do I get this X by itself? Very good. We need to divide by 45 on this side, and if I divide by 45 on the left, I have to divide by 45 on the right. So here, 45 divided by 45 is 1. So 1 times X is X. And then we can use our calculators. So we have 270 divided by 45, and that gives us 6. So this is going to be 6 shifts. Kasumi is saving, this is example 2b, Kasumi is saving an equal amount each week for 4 weeks to buy a video game for $55. We want to write and solve a multiplication equation to determine the amount she is saving each week. Okay? So I would like for you to take 2 minutes to do this with your table partners. Very good. So here we're going to say that M is the money saved each week. If we take the number of weeks that she saved for and we multiply that times how much money she saved, that's what we're looking for, that's going to give us the cost of the game. So that's going to give us 4M is equal to 55. To solve it, we divide by 4 on both sides, and M is equal to $13.75. So that's how much she's going to save each week in order to get to the $55. So when we divide on each side of an equal sign to keep the balance, that is called the division property of equality. That's what we have been doing with each of these examples. All right, so for example 3, we're going to solve multiplication equations now using our inverse operations, okay? So you're going to use your cover-up. If you still need to, you can use your cover-up. So you're going to cover up what you're solving for. That's the x. What do I need to get rid of to get the x by itself? We're going to get rid of the 12. We need to divide by 12. So we divide by 12 on both sides. And over here, this 12 divided by 12 cancels to 1. And 1 times x is equal to x. And then on the other side, 144 divided by 12 is 12. And that's how you show your work. Is everybody clear? So let's take a look at letter B. This one says negative 23m is equal to 92. Using our cover-up, what do I need to get rid of? Negative 23. Very good. Now, what am I going to divide negative 23 by to make it into a positive 1? Yes, yes. You're going to divide by negative 23 on both sides. Divide by negative 23 on both sides. So, negative 23 divided by negative 23 is 1. That's a positive 1, right? Positive times m, positive 1 times m is equal to m. Now, what is a positive divided by a negative? A negative. You got that? So a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And again, if you need to, you can use your calculator. So we have 92 divided by 23, and that equals 4. So this is going to be a negative 4. Okay, so for letter C, we want to divide by what? Negative 14. Very good. Negative 14. So, negative 14 divided by negative 14, that gives us 1. So that's 1 times k, which is k. And then, on the other side, we've got, what's a negative divided by a negative? Positive. Very good. So now, we've got 168 divided by 14, which is 12. So this is going to be a positive 12. Is everybody clear? And then on this side, what am I going to divide by to get the g by itself? This one we will divide by a negative 12. Divide by negative 12. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So this is going to be g is equal to, and then we've got 108 divided by 12, which gives us 9.